Hello students, welcome to our last video on the module of scale free property. In this module, we will talk about generation models. So what these generation models are? So generation models help us examine if certain properties that we observe in network are because of merely degree distribution, pk, or there is some relation with that how these networks evolve. And we'll talk about network evolution when we will go to module 5 and module 6 after this. But right now we have some idea that certain properties, for example emergence of hubs or large variance which cannot be explained by mean, are directly related to degree distribution. On the other hand, if you talk about clustering coefficient, specifically local clustering coefficient or degree correlation means that what is the tendency of a high degree node to connect with another high degree node, and then we would say that there is a high degree correlation. Similarly, if a low degree node has a tendency to connect with low degree node, we would again say that there is a degree correlation. But there are certain properties that are just evident when we look at the degree distributions. For example, hubs, or what are the probability of finding exceptionally large degree nodes in a network. On the other hand, clustering coefficient or degree correlation may appear by the virtue of how this network really evolves. Hence, to understand whether this is a property of a degree distribution or something special is going, we will generate some networks with known degree distribution. So we will generate networks, right, where we know the degree distribution and try to see that whether these properties are conserved or they are altered as we randomize certain aspects of it. Now, how we can do that? One of the simplest thing that comes to our mind, that let us say that we have a network with n number of nodes, l number of links. We can keep those nodes as it is and nodes as it is and shuffle all the links, keeping number of links constant. So that would mean that we are basically rewiring the entire system and then trying to understand how the properties have changed. So one way to do that is to do via configuration model. So what these configuration models are? Configuration models basically points towards that how we can wire certain nodes. For example, let us say that we are given 4 node network and we fix that this node needs to have a degree of 3, this node needs to have a degree of 2, this node needs to have a degree of 1, and this node should have a degree of 2 and again degree of 1. And the condition here is that we call these as stubs. All stubs should be connected, and we are okay with an assumption that we allow self loop and double paths. Double paths, if you remember this bridge of Konigsberg that we covered in module 2, we said that there could be two paths going between a pair of bridge, that is something like this. So we will say that there are two different paths that take us from node A to node B. So self loop is allowed and double paths are allowed. Now if we have to do that, one can do that. Okay, I want to generate a network which would look like this. I will connect this stub to this one to this stub, this one goes here, this one goes here. Now if you look at the degree distribution, on x-axis if you have k, on y-axis you have pk, you will have out of 4 nodes, one node having degree of 1. So probability of finding node with k equal to 1 is 1 by 4. There are 2 nodes which have degree of 2. So we can say that this is 2 by 4. And again one node which has a degree of 3. So this would be 3 by 4. So this is k equal to 2, k equal to 3, and so on. Now one other person who is working on the same network say that I don't like this configuration. So I will generate my network where I take 3 nodes and create a triangle like this, and hence you would end up with the another network which would have the same or exact identical degree distribution with 1 by 4, 2 by 4 and 3 by 4 for k equal to 1, 2 and 3 respectively, and you can check it. And we call these models where we are generating different kind of networks with known degree distribution as configuration models. Now, what these configuration models give us? Configuration models give us null hypothesis. Null hypothesis against which we say that although the degree distribution is there, we have destroyed the realism of this network. This wiring may not have any physical significance, but this gives us an interesting point to compare that how clustering coefficient of a random graph or random network would compare to a real world system. And if we see that in a real world system clustering coefficient is significantly different from this randomized version, we say that something special has shaped up this network. On the other hand, if degree distribution is known, then you can say you would say that yes, hubs are decided primarily based on degree distribution, and since degree distribution is not changing, hubs are truly a property of degree distribution. And if you say that hubs are property of degree distribution, we know that in case of scale free networks, hubs play a prominent role to make an ultra small world, and in that case we would say that ultra small world is also a property that is guided by a degree distribution. That's how these configuration models work. Similarly, you can also have another class of generation models which are basically randomizations. There are two kind of randomizations that we can do. One is full randomization and another is degree preserving randomization. And again, this degree preserving randomization is something that we would use to compare our models against a null hypothesis. And what is full randomization? Let us look at this carefully. Let us say that you have a network with n nodes and l links, and they are connected in some systematic way, or when you plot their degree distribution, it looks like a scale free network. This is an extended system. I am not drawing a full system here. So what we do in full randomization, we say that keep n constant, keep l constant, and randomly reshuffle these nodes. That is, you again draw this, and so there are 5 nodes here, and you have to place 5 links. So you will say that rather than this, I can place links like this: 2, 3, 4, 5. So this network 2 is the randomized version of network 1, and you can imagine that as the network size grows, you can have infinite variance of this randomized version. Now if you look at the degree distribution, if it is coming from scale free, let us say our number 1 is coming from scale free network, its degree distribution will look like this is k, this is pk, and here we would have a slope of minus gamma. And when you look for very large networks, their randomized versions would represent something like a Poisson distribution, and hence pointing towards the fact that if you disturb the orders of links without preserving the degree, you are doing a full randomization, and hence the properties of degree distribution will change. So what we do in real world systems, for example, you get to see a real world system, and there you see that yes, there is a power law, and then you randomly shuffle the nodes and try to see that what is the new degree distribution looking like, and that gives you an insight that indeed what we are observing, or the snapshot of real data that we get, is indeed a scale free network, and it is very different had this wiring has happened randomly into the system. And that's why we look into the degree preserving randomization. So what this degree preserving randomization network gives us, so as the name suggests, we have to preserve the degree before and after reshuffling. So let us consider this small network or a toy network which has 5 number of nodes, and now we know that this node has a degree 1, this would have 3, 2, 2 and 2, and even after shuffling, if we can do a rewiring in a way that is you have the same number of distributions associated, just by passing one of the links or swapping links between a pair of nodes, you would again have the same degrees 1, 2, 3, 2, 2. But these networks, although having same form of pk, pk1 would be same as pk2, certain network properties, for example, if you look at the clustering coefficient, would change for certain nodes, and that's where degree preserving randomization, it gives us insights into that what properties would get disturbed even if we keep the degree distribution same. For example, in these two networks, the number of hubs or degrees of hubs would remain identically same, because you cannot distinguish between the degree distribution. Similarly, if we say that the shortest paths is a function or average path length is a function of degree distribution, that is going to change, but properties that are variant or dependent upon the exact wiring, they are going to change. Now let us move to last discussion, that is, for example, in many real world scenarios, we just know the vector that okay, this particular vector is coming from a degree distribution which follows a functional form of pk, and we want to generate a synthetic data or a vector that would represent the nodes, let us say n nodes or their degrees, which are actually coming from a given distribution. In this case, we can start with pk as k raised to power minus gamma. So how we can do that? In fact, even if we change this form of pk, this discussion would apply, because this is a way how we generate the random samples from a certain distribution, and you would find it useful even beyond the class of network science. So the starting point is, let us generate a random vector, a RV of length n. So if you want to generate nodes or a network with 1000 nodes, and we want and we know this n is 1000, so we will generate these numbers between 0 and 1 using uniform distribution, and we will have some numbers like 0.4, 0.6, 0.3 and so on. Secondly, we will look into the functional form of the underlying degree distribution, and in this case we are starting with an example of our pk of form ck minus gamma. So we will write a function dk which would be equal to what is the total probability of finding a node of degree greater than k bar. So for example, what is the probability of finding a node greater than 3, 4, 5, 6? So this summation function will keep on expanding. So if we again see this dk, if we want to find the value of d1, so we will say that what is the probability of finding a node greater than degree of 1? So that would be all the summations for k1, for k dash taking values greater than 1, which would be 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way till infinity. And we know that if our minimum degree is defined as 1, so this d1 has to be equal to 1. Similarly, if you move to d2, that would be everything minus what is the probability of observing the nodes less than 1. And if somebody asks you what is the probability of having this total probability of having degrees greater than 100, this will keep on shrinking, because now k dash equal to 100 pk dash, and k dash can take value of 100, 101, 100 through and up to so on, and you can imagine that d1 has to be greater than d100. And if we plot this, it would look something like a step function. So on x-axis, if we have k, here we have dk, and if we plot it on some coarser scale, that is, let us say log scale, you would see that we have some distribution like this for 1, and as you keep on progressing, we would keep on reducing the value, and after certain cutoff, we learned about this k max, right? After k max, we would have almost 0 or negligible values for the dk, because probability of finding a node greater than this upper cutoff is negligible, as we did in the derivation. And now what we try to do with the random variables, we started our discussion that let us generate 100 or 1000 random variables if we are interested to generate degree distribution of a network that will follow a power law with 1000 nodes. What we will do, we will try to take the image of those random variables on this graph. What that means, let us say that your first random variable that you generated is 0.6. So we will go here on 0.6, hit here, take its image in the x-axis, and we say that if this is 0.6, the degree should be equal to 1. Then again, if your random number is, let us say 0.2, you will draw a vertical line here, intersect this curve here, and you can clearly say that this particular value is much greater than 1. Let us say hypothetically I am saying it is 100, and you can do it for 1000 different vectors, and at the end you are going to get a vector starting from random variables generated between 0 and 1 to a meaningful distribution. Now one thing here is that in this case this functional form can be generated by using any distribution. Even if I say that instead of power law your pk is following a normal distribution, we will apply the same analogy. Now we will say that instead of ck minus gamma, if we know the variance 2 pi sigma e raised to power minus x minus mu square upon 2 sigma square, so this pk will take the different form, but the method or to generate the degree distribution from a random vector would essentially remain same. The only thing that will change is the underlying histogram. Again, when we go to find the parameters or identify goodness of fit, we will use this method to compare whether our how different our real world degree distribution is from synthetically generated degree distribution. Because if you generate a degree distribution using this method, it is guaranteed that this is going to follow a power law for sufficiently large n, because you have controlled the setup. On the other hand, real world networks can bring you surprises, and hence it is important not only just saying that okay this is coming from a degree distribution. If you see some signatures like that, if you have k pk and you see that there is a straight line, because then there could be an argument that even log normal distribution would have a similar shape. Then how you can say that log normal is not a better explanation of this degree distribution and power law is? And in that cases we do goodness of fit tests. So what these goodness of fit tests tells you, that if you fit a particular distribution on a real data and you already can generate a degree distribution by following the exact functional form for synthetic data. What we generated before is a synthetic data example where you artificially generated a degree distribution without caring about the network. And if there is a tolerable divergence between the degree distribution that you get for real data versus that you really generated from a synthetic data, you can say that there is a good fitness, or this particular distribution is able to explain the real data, and hence we go with that distribution. Otherwise we keep on identifying the best possible fit. Similarly, we have to also, once we say that yes this distribution is a better fit, we have to identify the parameters. In fact, we identify the parameters first and then go for the goodness of fit. In case of power law, we have to identify gamma, and one way to do this gamma is looking into maximum likelihood estimates. So I will not go into details of maximum likelihood estimate. If you are interested to watch more about it, I have posted some videos in my other course. But in the context of networks, there is a classical paper by Closet et al. Which was published in 2007, which goes into the details of how to identify power law relationships for real world data, which we will review in our journal club. But for this particular module, all you have to understand and internalize is that many real world systems, they deviate from random laws or random networks, and they exhibit large hubs, and these hubs can be explained if we change the underlying distribution to scale free networks or the or power law distribution. And once we have this power law distribution guiding, we have to justify the statistical goodness, whether data is really coming from that distribution or not. And this entire statistics is done to establish or prove or reject our hypothesis. When we will go to hands-on session after module 5, we will use a module in Python called as power law. It's a package in Python which will do lot of goodness of fit, comparison, which distribution is better to explain our degree distributions, and maximum likelihood estimates for us. So we will not worry too much about the statistics, and with that we are good to go to module 5, which we will talk about the evolution of networks, starting with the Barabashi-Albert